Okay, so now we are going to continue with the chapter that we were doing, factors of production, right?
Yes, sir.
And we studied a bit of it in the previous class, where we talked about the factors of production, that factors needed for the production of goods and services, which includes the land, labor, capital, and enterprise. And we
Yes,
also talked about the rewards of providing land, labor, capital, and enterprise.
yes, sir.
Now we are going to move on to the next topic, that is the advantages and disadvantages of specialization or division of labor. Okay, there
Okay.
is there is a slight bit of difference between the two when we talk about the specialization and division of labor.
Yes, sir.
What is that difference?
So, sir, specialization is basically when a firm is going to specialize in producing one product because their labor and the workforce has the skills for that product or they have the
Mhm.
sufficient resources for that product. But division of labor is when tasks are divided between the labor. Everyone is given one task to do according to their skills.
Yeah. So when I I have to differentiate the division of labor and specialization.
Yes,
So I
sir.
say that division of labor is dividing the labor into different tasks so that each worker is performing a specific task.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
specialization is that you divide the labor in such a way that the specialized person is doing a task in which he or she is specialized. So let's say there are four different tasks like bringing in the raw material,
Yes,
making
sir.
of the product, packing of the product, and delivery of the product. So I'm going to assign a task of delivery to the person who can obviously drive rather than the person who cannot drive and
Yes,
is good in packing. So if he's good in packing the product, so he should be packing the product.
yes, sir.
Somebody who knows how to make the product should be making the product rather than delivering the product. So specialization is used in such a way. Okay, so today, first we'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages of this.
Yes, sir.
Here we have the advantages. Let me just, and we have the disadvantages.
Yes, sir.
So, what are the advantages that you can think of when it comes to the specialization into way of living?
So I think that for division of labor, if you will divide it between the employees, it can enhance their skills, like that specific skill, to make that product, and can, in a way, increase the quality and the productivity if they're really good at producing that one product.
Okay, so you have talked about 2 points here. One is the learning of new skills,
Yes, sir.
and second thing you talked about the high productivity.
Yes, sir.
The efficiency in terms of time will also be there,
Yes, sir.
not only in making the product, but the time as well. And you also talked about the quality. So it means the accuracy of the products are going to increase because they are specialized in it. No?
Yes, sir.
So there will be quality products that they will be making. And specifically in division of labor, sometimes you also do the job rotation.
Yes, sir.
That also keeps the worker motivated.
Yes, sir.
And then there is going to be, although it relates to efficiency, but with efficiency, we have just written one, we have linked it to only one point, that is time. So we are going to write it here that there will be less wastage of resources.
Yes, sir.
Agreed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, on the other hand, when we are talking about the disadvantages, so the
So
first one, yes, yes,
I
yes,
think
yes.
that if a firm is only going to specialize in one product, if the entire firm is going to
Mm,
specialize in one product, they may not have, say, like if all of a sudden the product that they produce, the raw materials are depleting. So they will not be
mm.
able to keep a continuous production, and their entire workforce can go into loss. Like they may have to close their entire workforce if they're not even able to produce it because maybe
Mm.
the demand worldwide has decreased for it, or um, fashion and tastes have changed, or there's no raw materials anymore.
Very important point. Very important point. The over specialization.
Yes, sir.
Very important. From the point of view of a country which is specializing in producing one good and taking the other goods from the other countries. So the too much dependence on other countries.
Yes, sir.
And this is not only the case that there could be many things that can happen which could result in the distortion in a trade between two countries,
Yes,
or
sir.
disturbance in trade, or the end of trade between two countries. One is basically when we are talking about it. So one thing could be that the let's suppose you are providing a good to a certain country. So the way you said it, that there is now lower demand for that product in the market. So they
Yes.
are not going to demand it anymore.
Yes,
So
sir.
that is going to result in structural unemployment in your country
Yes, sir.
because the people in your country are basically trained to produce that particular good.
Yes,
One
sir.
thing. Second thing is the way you said that there's going to be depletion of resources.
Yes, sir.
So there will be depletion at a faster rate because you are all of your energy and all of your resources are being used in productivity of one single type of a product.
Yes, sir.
So that thing can also happen. Thirdly, if because this is business.
Yes, sir.
So if you are doing a business with another country and you find a better deal somewhere else, you might not want to sell it to you rather than like that country might not be willing to sell it to you and they would sell it to somebody else. So
Yes.
that could also happen. Then, whether you are going for the division of labor or specialization, sometimes you need to bear the training cost as well.
Yes, sir.
Then, specifically, when you are talking, although the specialized workers are there, but they could be, in the division of labor, you might do the job rotation for the probably for the unskilled workers, but still,
Mm.
there might be an issue of doing the same task again and again, which makes
Yes.
the worker demotivated.
Yes, sir.
Worker gets demotivated. Then, the absence of worker can
Yes.
halt the entire production process. And if it is if he's a specialized worker, so that is
No one
a
else can
big issue.
because if
Yes,
no one can really fill in for him once he's absent because everyone has their own skills.
exactly. So this is not going to be a big problem for the unskilled workers because you have also taught them the job rotation thing so they can do different tasks. But
Yes.
for a skilled worker, there might not be a replacement available to you because that replacement is also going to cost you a lot of money. So
Yes,
you
sir.
can't have let's suppose if I talk about a school in which there is an economics teacher teaching. So you might not want to have a substitute economics teacher available all the time because that is going to cost you a lot of money and he is not teaching even, right?
Yep.
So that is going to be a big issue.
Yes.
So uh, absence of worker can halt the entire production process.
So I don't understand one thing that you said for job rotation, it's only for unskilled workers. Um, so yeah, it's only for unskilled because they have to increase their skill set, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And then these 2 points, repetitive tasks causes demotivation, and then absence of workers can halt entire production process. Why are these both only for skilled, not unskilled?
Which one? The this doing the same task again and again.
Yes, so that
That could
and
also work with the specialized worker even, or rather, this could work more for the specialized worker than for the unskilled worker because unskilled worker is being rotated into a similar task for that. And that sometimes even happen with the specialized worker. It's not like the specialized worker is just stick to one task very much that he cannot do separate other different tasks.
okay,
He
sir.
can also perform different tasks, but in a, in that same field.
Oh
If
yeah,
there is not in the same exact same field, exact same work, he might not be able to do it,
yes, sir.
right? If he's somebody who is, good in making the product, he might not be good enough in packing the product.
Yes, sir.
And secondly, when we are talking about the absence of worker, so usually for an unskilled worker, you might just because that is an unskilled work. Let's
Yes,
suppose if I have, in my small business, let's suppose if I feel like that there is one of the worker not available for let's say coming 20 days, I can, hire somebody else who can do the same unskilled work and I can hire it very quickly. But
yes,
if a
sir.
specialized worker is away from work for 15, 20 days, first thing is that I would not be, willing to hire somebody who is specialized and specifically if I have to hire him for the on the salary basis.
Yes,
The
sir.
unskilled workers might also be paid on the, the daily wage. So for
Yes,
the daily wage for those 20 days, if that worker is absent, not a big problem for me. Why? Because I will not have to give him the piece rate, no?
yes, sir.
So I can hire very quickly an unskilled worker and I can give him the same thing.
Yes, sir.
Right? But
Yes, sir.
that, is not a possibility with a specialized worker because their wages are high. And secondly, rather than giving them wages, we usually give them the salaries.
Yes, sir.
So we cannot find a substitute. And even if I think of finding a substitute, okay, fine, I will just because obviously this is again going to be very unethical that somebody who is sick for 20, 25 days and you just have hired a replacement for him,
Yes,
so
sir.
that replacement is also going to cost you a lot of money. And secondly, even though, okay, fine, then we will not have to pay for his salary who is sick and we'll pay his salary to the other person. Okay, even I agree with that. But then again, a specialized worker, finding him at such a short notice is not going to be easy.
Yes, sir.
Right? That is, is also a problem. If I talk about my own field, that during the session, if the schools want another teacher, a
Yes.
specialized teacher, they might not be able to get one,
Yes, sir.
right? And specifically a permanent one, they cannot have it. Like
Yes.
they could probably go for a visiting one, and the visiting teachers might be available that, okay, fine, I have these many hours free in a week, so I can come. But a permanent teacher who is working on a permanent salary at schools, he is not going to shift the school during the session,
Yes, sir.
right? So
Yes, sir.
these are the things which are, which are not similar for the unskilled and the skilled workers. The dynamics are different.
Yes, sir.
Because when the dynamics are different, their working is different. Their advantages and drawbacks sometimes are also different.
Yes, sir.
Then we talk about sometimes you also see that you are giving the labor the training.
Yes,
And
sir.
if you are giving specifically, if I talk about, the off-the-job training.
Yes, sir.
So because you said that the skills are going to improve for the worker, right? They are going to learn the new skills. So when they are going to learn the new skills and from unskilled, they will become more skilled, isn't it that there is going to be high labor turnover?
Yes, sir. They can find better jobs. They think another place has higher pay. It has better working conditions. They will just leave the job and then they'll go to another job.
Exactly. So that is also can be a case that when they will, and specifically when there is off the job, because in on the job training, what happens is that the training that is being provided is very much suited for that particular
Yes,
firm.
sir.
So it's probably not going to be generalized, but off the job is where you are having a general training of the things, and there you improve your skills a lot because the experienced trainers are basically training you there.
Yes, sir.
And what else? You also see low labor mobility sometimes. There could be different reasons for the skilled and unskilled workers, which could result in the immobility of them.
Yes.
So it could be the problems of the family ties. It could be the problem of, being very much too much specialized in one thing and cannot do the other thing. So he
Yes.
will, and mostly you will also see this that sometimes, although it seems like having a skill is a blessing, but at the same time, um, the time period for which the worker remains unemployed is more for the skilled sometimes than the unskilled. Because a
Yes.
skilled worker would want to go to a place where his particular skills he can get he can get the job which is exactly according to his skill set. So
Yes.
he might also be voluntarily unemployed sometimes that he does not like the salary that they are giving, the working condition or other things. But for
Yes.
the unskilled workers, one thing is that there are more jobs available for the unskilled compared to the skilled, right?
Yes.
So there are more vacancies as well because if worker is an office boy, he can also work in any store, fixing the shelves and all other things, so maintaining the shelves or all those sort of things. Or he can also go to any restaurant and work as a waiter, and so they have a lot of opportunities available
Yes.
because the work that they will be doing, they do not need much of an education for that
Yes,
and
sir.
might not also need a very high skill for that.
Yes.
That must be shown in his CV that he must be done with the MBBS or all those things or any engineering degree or whatever. So their availability is more, and the job vacancies are also more there,
Yes, sir.
right? So this is a major difference here. Now when we talk about the role of entrepreneur, not too much important of a topic because this is especially when we talk about the characteristics of successful entrepreneur. This is
Yes.
a topic which is, very important in business, but not too much in economics because there are very few questions sometimes comes regarding this.
Yes, sir.
So, role of entrepreneur. Role is to basically organize the production,
Yes, sir.
and second is to take risk, like the investment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so characteristics of a successful entrepreneur.
Okay.
Okay, one thing I just missed out here.
Yes, sir.
When we are talking about the risk
Yes, sir.
that an entrepreneur is taking a risk, there's not only the money that he is spending.
Yes, sir.
There might be other things as well. Like when we are, because we are studying economics, so we also have to, you know, bring in the impact of opportunity cost.
Oh, yes, sir.
Probably that person was working in a, you know, he was doing a job which was giving him a fixed salary every month.
Yes, sir.
So if he leaves that to do his business, that is a big risk.
Yes, sir.
Many of the people who are doing a job and they are getting a fixed salary, so asking them to do a business and they doing the business in the same hours. So if the hours are separate, so that's not an issue. Like you're doing a business in evening and you are working in the morning, so you can
Yes, sir.
basically mm, run two things together. But then again, the point is that if you want to focus on your business, so you will have to probably leave every other thing, right? And you have to focus on, and that switch from doing a job to doing a business is also a risk-taking thing. I do
Ye-
not say that this is the scenario for every businessman.
Yes, sir.
Probably they have a lot of family wealth through which they are doing the business.
Yes.
Probably they would not need to do a job because they are continuing with their family business, or even if not, so it's not like they are, sometimes there are people who are unable to find a good job or they are not working. So
Yes.
they think that rather than finding a job, let's just go for doing the business. So there the risk might be lower. When you have more money, your family wealth or anything like that, inherited wealth, so there the risk is lower. But still, there are different ways through which the risk can be calculated into the role of an entrepreneur, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, talking about the characteristics of successful entrepreneur, what do you have to say about this?
Okay, sir. So the characteristics that I know is that a successful entrepreneur needs to be persevere, needs to be determined toward the end goal. Then second, he needs to be a team builder. He needs to be able to, be someone who can work in a team alongside everyone else in the organization. And then number three is someone who is good at time management. They can
Hmm.
manage their time and finish, said like the objectives that they said before. They can achieve the other objectives on time. Then another one that I can think of right now is they're innovative. They can come up with new
Hmm.
product ideas and product designs. Um, then another one that I can think of is the attitude. Like they have a positive attitude towards the rest, like the business decisions, and even if any there's any
Hmm.
problem, they will face it with a positive attitude, and they'll have to come up with a solution.
Very
This is
nice.
my mind right now.
Very nice. And about the characteristics of successful entrepreneur. I've seen this in more in business than in economics that when students are doing a question related to this, so they are unable to, they can identify the characteristics, but they cannot explain them well. Like it's sometimes very hard for them to give a good explanation. Let's suppose they say that the entrepreneur is a hard worker, or
Yes.
they're smart worker, or they are creative, or they are innovative. So they have that leadership quality. They are, good communicators.
Yes.
So the point is that you can identify a lot of points.
Yes,
The
sir.
description is very important
Yes, sir.
because that must be, matching your type of characteristic that you are telling.
Yes,
So
sir.
you have performed well there in identifying that how, like what the description of all of these. So they must have the leadership quality.
Yes, sir.
They should be good leaders so that they can inspire their workforce and their managers and everybody who's under them, and they should follow the footsteps. Risk taker, right?
Yes,
So when
sir.
he's taking decisions, so he should be the one to take some decisions which, risk taking is not like even in business doing there are ways of there are decisions that you take are not very risky.
Yes,
So
sir.
there's a very, calculated sort of a risk that you take, which is, is good, which is, which makes sense, obviously, that you are making a calculated risk. But sometimes the risk is not calculated, but the reward could be too big.
Oh, yes, sir.
There could be too big of a failure or too big of a reward. Like,
Yes.
if you are making a product, so you have researched the market and you have seen that okay fine, this is what is going on in the market and this is what the other companies are producing, so you come up with the same type of a product with some variations,
Yes.
so that you can differentiate your product with the others. But then there is another type of a research in which you are basically developing a very new product. You are innovating. So innovating and developing a product that is, there's not much, obviously it's a new product and there's not much detail available in the market as well, or a
Yes.
data available. Let's suppose if I talk about the start of the smartphones.
Yes, sir.
So a big credit goes to Apple for that as well, that
Yes.
they started off with this thing, or they started off with the, the iPods first, and then the
Yes.
phones as well. So all those things, there was not enough of the data that they could think of that, okay, fine, that people are liking it or disliking it, or they do the observations or they do that sort of a research, because the product is a whole lot of a new thing for the customers as well.
Yes.
So there is a bigger risk now that you do not know how customers react to it.
Yes, sir.
They might like it, they might not like it. So that is, is a big risk-taking ability that the entrepreneur should have,
Yes, sir.
right? Then he also obviously needs to be creative or innovative. He needs to be a good communicator. So there are a lot of points that you can write here. So these
Yes.
are the four things that I have written. By the way, why does he need to be a good communicator?
Sir, if he isn't a good communicator, the first thing he won't be able to set like targets for his workforce, for his employees, and also he will not be able to create that interpersonal workforce relationship with his employees, which can
Mhm.
in turn cause a demotivated workforce, and it can also increase labor turnover. So because employees will not feel like that need of theirs is being fulfilled, so they'll feel like unimportant and then might just leave. So he
But
needs
do
to have.
you think in a big in a very big company that the owner will always need to have this skill because he wants to communicate to his workforce? Because that is not what the owners are doing, that's the manager's task.
Manage. Yes, sir. It's the managers. But I think it probably depends on the type of on the workforce, right? Also the style of management. I think it like all depends on that. Um, the way that they communicate, how much they tell their
Mm.
employees, and then how much they want to give responsibility to their employees. All of that. Like,
And it also depends on the type of a business. If it's a very
yes,
small business that you have,
yes, sir.
and you are basically you have a very small shop and you are dealing with the customers,
Yes, sir.
there the good communication is very important. You have to convince the customer that okay, fine, we are selling you a product and this is what the product is all about. You're telling the qualities and you're convincing the customer to buy. And then if the customer is requiring some changes into the product, so that you can also respond to well,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So making customer sure, giving them sort of an assurance that you are going to work on this and you are going to make the changes according to their needs. One more thing, very, very important, why good work, why the entrepreneur must be a good communicator is that he has to pitch the idea
Yes,
to
sir.
the investors,
Yes, sir.
to the shareholders. So that pitching the idea or from anyone who you want to take the money and you want to consider them as a even if you want to consider them as a silent partner in the business, so you have to pitch an idea.
Yes, sir.
How do you pitch it is very important.
Okay, sir.
So that's why you need to be a very good communicator in this sense, right?
Yes, sir.
You can basically write this part down
Yes, sir.
and then we'll move forward.
Yes, sir. I'm done writing.
Okay, perfect. Now, again, MCQs, I will share you with you the answers for the chapter second MCQs and the chapter three MCQs after the class. Okay, moving forward.
Sir, I wanted to ask you something because
Mhm.
for the for chapter one, MCQs, I had some doubts because I checked them yesterday. So I wanted to just
Mm.
like ask you when we can discuss those MCQs.
How many of them are?
Sir, I got 19 out of 25. So I got
Okay,
six wrong. From those, there were some that I don't really know why I got wrong. So I wanted to just discuss them with you.
no problem, no problem. We'll do that. We'll do that discussion as well. Right?
Okay.
We'll do that discussion. So I just want to give a bit of okay, how much? Okay, so I'll just give a bit of a start to this chapter,
Yes, sir.
just a bit of a start, and then we'll, just end the session here, and
Mm,
then we can discuss your MCQs as well, right?
okay.
Okay, so topic 1.4 resource allocation and different economic systems, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so economic systems. What are economic systems?
Sir, in economic systems, there's three types. There's market economy, mixed economy, and planned economy. Um,
Mm,
and basically, if I have to give like a small introduction of them, market economy is one that is controlled by the market forces of supply and demand. And then it's basically like consumers will whatever they demand, the suppliers will supply that. And then
um,
the price is also based on supply and demand, all of that. Then a planned economy is one that is controlled entirely by the central government. There's no, basically It's only them who can decide the price. They can decide what they're going to supply, what type of product they're going to supply, all up to them. And then a mixed economy is one that has both the private sector and the public sector. So it's
Mhm.
basically both consumers and producers and the government. There is government intervention to basically, avoid problems. Like there's a lot of problems that happen in production. So to avoid all that, there is government intervention, but there's also consumers and producers in that market.
Okay, great, great. That's great. Okay, now let's just move on to first talking about the market economy.
Yes, sir.
So here, when we talk about the market economy, the ownership is in the hands of private individuals with minimized government intervention. So, what are okay? So, here the private individuals are the ones who are having more of a control over the ownership of resources,
Yes,
and
sir.
they are, allocating the resources to produce the goods and services. So, they have that luxury of doing the business with very minimized government intervention.
Yes, sir.
So you will not basically see a very perfect sort of what you call it a scenario of a market economy, which is exactly like the definition that we have.
Yes, sir.
But you can see, you know, some of the economies which were very close to the market economy.
Yes, sir.
Like you talk about US, you talk about Canada. So
Yes,
these countries are very much close to the market economic system where they promote the idea of private individuals doing the business and if they want to make a fortune, they can. Like they are allowed to do the business and they can grow as much as they want with the
yes,
minimum, with very minimum, what you call it, to minimize sort of government intervention into
yes, sir.
their work. So I'll just write down some of the features of the market economy, and
Yes.
here we are going to just put an end to this.
Okay, sir.
First is no government intervention.
Yes, sir.
Very minimized also, although sometimes it is written that there is no, but if it is, when we say that there is no government intervention, so you will not probably find any country which is exactly as a market economy, but there is minimized sort of government intervention there.
Right, sir.
Okay, then the second thing is resource allocation is done by private sector.
Yes, sir.
So all those questions, fundamental questions, are basically the answers of all those questions is the private sector.
Yes,
Like
sir.
what to produce, whether to produce the consumer goods or the capital goods. So wherever the private sector will find it more profitable, they are going to produce that, or and how they are going to find it profitable, the demand of the people. So whatever the people are demanding, they are producing. Second is how they produce, whether to use a capital intensive technique or the labor intensive. It
Yes,
depends on two things. One is the amount of investment that they can have, The
Yes.
more money they have, the more they will invest, the more machinery they will be, and most of the tasks will be done by the machine. So that is more sort of, capital intensive system. And second thing is it also depends on a type of a product that they are making.
Yes, sir.
If the company is making more of a customized product, so probably there's more labor required for that.
Yes, sir.
And then for whom to produce. So usually this is very simple answer. The private sector, although provide goods to the businesses, to the consumers, and to the government as well, but
Yes.
they are usually providing the goods to all of those people who can afford to pay.
Yes, sir.
In a market economy, there is competition, which is, okay,
Yes.
I will rather write it high competition is there. And the last thing that we have is the variety
Yes, sir.
of goods and services, right?
Yes, sir.
Why there is a variety? Because in market economy, there will be, huge number of firms
Yes, sir.
producing the goods and services. So and the private sector is producing, so there will be many of the private sector firms producing the same product,
Yes,
but you
sir.
will find a very good variety
Yes,
in that, right?
yes, sir.
Now moving to the last part to this, and then we are done for today with the topic advantages and disadvantages. So one thing very clear that there is going to be variety of goods and services for the customers.
Yes, sir. So they can get like maybe a better value for their money because they can go and see which product is worth their money and it's better cheaper from one firm.
Exactly. So the better value brings two things into act, the quality and the price.
Yes, sir.
So value for money is that the quality is high plus the price is also low.
Yes, sir.
And the other thing is that the price will be low because of the high
Economies.
competition, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
they're competing now in a large number. So you are not producing a product in isolation and you do not have any. I know that in market economy there can be monopolies established,
Yes,
but
sir.
at the same time, if we see the flip side of the market economy, this is the good part that if there is no monopoly, there is going to be then very high competition.
Yes, sir.
And businesses are encouraged to do business.
Yes, sir.
So when businesses are encouraged, so what happens is that they pay the taxes,
Yes, sir.
they hire the workers. So employment is there, government is generating money out of it. So these are the good parts. Then
Yes,
high production.
yes, sir.
So
So
that is also a good thing that the GDP is increasing. Yes, what were you saying?
I was saying that if they have high production, will they also not benefit like the firm from economies of scale?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Why not? Specifically if they become large and obviously government is not breaking that monopoly, no?
Yes, sir.
Government is not breaking that setup. So if you can grow, you should grow. And if you grow too much, so obviously, I'm not saying too much because then that will trigger the concept of diseconomies of scale. But growing at a larger scale is going to earn you economies of scale, no doubt about it.
Yes, sir.
And there's one very, very important thing here which you will not find in planned economy is the response.
Oh,
They
yes.
respond quickly to changes in customer demand.
Oh, yes, okay.
right? So this is very important point. Lack of space is an issue here. Okay. So on the other hand, if I talk about some of the drawbacks of um, free market economy, one that we have been talking about it a lot.
Yes, sir.
Monopolies will also going to be established,
Yes, sir.
right? So monopolies, the drawback with them is that they are providing the low quality because they are not very much concerned about making the profit because they know that
Yes,
customers are always going to buy from them,
yes, sir.
which makes their product a bit of inelastic one. So
Elastic.
high price, and they also restrict competition, with the
Yes,
natural and the artificial barriers that they can put off the firms from entering into market. So in later on, in the coming chapters, we'll also be talking about the natural and artificial barriers. We'll talk about monopoly in a bit of more detail.
okay, sir.
Then market failure is a big thing.
Yes,
Rather than writing this, I'm going to write this whole term market failure. Big problem that occurs. This is the biggest point
yes, sir.
that this is the big thing which occurs because of the free market economy, and that is the market failure.
Yes,
Biggest drawback. So market failure, i- although it includes the monopoly as well, but I will also include the demerit goods
dem-
production. Lack of information is also there, so asymmetric information.
yes, sir.
So we'll talk about all of these points in the coming chapters when we'll discuss the market failure. But this is a very important point.
Yes, sir.
There's a whole chapter on this. So then if I dissect it to, because I have only written the demerit goods and lack of information here, although
Yes,
this point of monopoly can come under the market failure, and this point that I'm going to write here can also come there. But if
yes,
I have just specified the market failure from the point of view of making the demerit goods and lack of information. So
yes,
wastage of resources or pollution could also
yes,
be there, right? So
yes, sir.
that is being created by the free market economy. I guess this is it for today in terms of the topics that we were doing. So basically, we finished off with the chapter number 3, that is factors of production. And we started off the new chapter. And in the chapter, we were talking about the market system,
All
right?
right.
So we'll continue from the planned economy in a next class, and we'll finish this topic in the next class. So this is it about the topic for today.